Let me start with a question. Have you ever walked into a place and just felt instantly that every pair of eyes was silently measuring you up, deciding in half a second if you even belonged there? That's exactly what happened to me, or I should say, to someone I care about. But you'll see what I mean. One ordinary Tuesday morning at the kind of luxury car dealership most people only see in movies or on the drive past the city's ritziest blocks. The air inside smelled like polished leather, and something sharper, maybe that was just the judgment hanging in the air, thicker than the cologne every salesman seemed to drown themselves in. The cars were lined up like artwork, paint gleaming under perfectly angled lights. Porsche, Bentley, Aston Martin, Ferrari, all quietly promising you a piece of some exclusive world, if you could afford the ticket in. And that's the thing, they're selling a world as much as they're selling cars. So when Lorraine, just a regular woman, plain jeans, white t-shirt, sneakers with more miles on them than some of the cars, stepped into Meridian Luxury Motors, she wasn't thinking about making an entrance. She just wanted to see that dark blue coupe she'd read about, thinking maybe, just maybe, she could make someone she loved really happy. But the way every conversation stopped, you could practically feel the temperature drop 3 degrees. Ethan, the sales manager with a tie that probably cost more than my old laptop, spotted her first. You know, the type quick with a smile that says, "How can I help you?" But the eyes that flick down, then right through you. He leaned over to a young salesman, Griffin, giving him that "you handle this, but don't waste my time" look. It's always the same, isn't it? People think they're being subtle. Griffin tried, he really did, but before Lorraine could even get a word out, Ethan slid in with his customer service voice, all honey and daggers, asking if she needed directions not to the car she wanted, but maybe, the used car lot 3 blocks down. Lorraine, with more patience than I'll ever have, just smiled and said she was interested in that coupe, the one right in the middle of the showroom, price tag reading $285,000 like it was the daily special. Ethan's smile stretched tighter. That's a limited edition Indigo, only for serious buyers, appointments only. He barely finished before a couple in designer clothes walked in, and suddenly the guy was all charm, leaving Lorraine standing there holding a brochure like some high school kid hoping to get noticed. That's when the twist started, not a dramatic movie twist, but the kind that's small, almost invisible, until you feel it in your chest. Griffin, seeing Lorraine's disappointment, quietly circled back. He started telling her about the car, eyes shining like he really loved the machines. And Lorraine listened, but kept one eye on Ethan, who, not 5 minutes later, was letting Mrs. Rivera, the designer-clad guest, into the appointment-only car with all the ceremony of a red carpet premiere. Lorraine tried one more time, walked over, said she was interested in buying, maybe even as a gift for her sister. Ethan's face went hard, his words sharper, this time low enough so only she could hear. "Look, these cars cost more than most houses. You're ruining my chance at a real sale." People started to stare, the tension turning every head. She told him she was ready to pay cash today. Ethan laughed, that mean, cold laugh that only people sure of their power ever dare to use in public. "This isn't a yard sale," he sneered. "People who buy here don't dress like that." By now, everyone was watching, and Lorraine, cheeks burning, not from shame, but a kind of silent, shaking anger, just met his eyes and said, "My money is just as good as anyone's." Ethan leaned in, lowered his voice again, told her she was embarrassing herself, wasting his time, told her to leave unless she could dress appropriately. You ever had someone try to shrink you down to nothing, right in front of a crowd? That's the feeling. That's the moment. The dealership owner, Preston, wandered over, drawn by the noise. Instead of fixing it, he backed his manager, politely but firmly. Lorraine, holding herself steady, finally introduced herself, so she understood the rules were clear. Ethan, seeing he had backup, pushed even further, telling her she could only come back with proof of funds and a different wardrobe. Around them, someone let out a laugh. Lorraine just said, "I see," and walked out, dignity battered but intact. But the story doesn't end there. That's just the high point of Act 1. Here's where it gets interesting. The next morning, Ethan came to work, probably still smug about chasing off another dreamer. At 10:17 on the dot, every conversation in that glass palace stopped cold outside. A Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up, the kind of car even Ethan couldn't ignore. Out stepped a chauffeur, opening the door for a tall man in a suit, so sharp it probably came with its own security detail. Ethan, smelling a big sale, raced to the door, already rehearsing his pitch. The man introduced himself, Wesley Harper. Ethan's mind flickered the name, almost familiar. Wesley cut through the small talk. I'm here about the Indigo Coupe. My wife was here yesterday. That's when a color drained from Ethan's face. Wesley spelled it out. You turn her away. Lorraine Harper. Jeans, white shirt. Ethan stammered, but it was too late. Preston, the owner, came running. Wesley laid it all out. How Ethan said his wife didn't belong. How he suggested she look elsewhere because of her clothes. Griffin, the young salesman, suddenly found his courage, stepped up, told the truth about what happened. The room went silent. And then Wesley dropped the bombshell. Lorraine wasn't just anybody. She'd founded a charity that had raised over $50 million for kids with disabilities, and she dressed simply by choice to stay grounded. It's the kind of thing that, when spoken out loud, makes a room full of salesmen in $1,000 suits suddenly want to disappear into the carpet. But Wesley wasn't there to embarrass, he was there to teach. He said he would buy the car for Lorraine's sister, just as she wanted. But he added, he'd been considering buying 7 cars for his company fleet, plus more for himself, but now, he wasn't sure this was the right place for such business. Preston went pale, offering apologies and assurances. Wesley held his ground. Actions speak louder than mission statements, he said. Then he made an offer. Ethan could come work as a volunteer at Lorraine's charity's next big event, not as a guest, but as staff, to really see what matters. And if the dealership wanted his business, they'd better start some real training on bias. As a final twist, Wesley told Griffin, the only one who'd acted with real decency, to handle the paperwork for the sale. For Ethan, it was over. The world he knew, built on shallow judgments and easy power, was suddenly a lot smaller. 1 month later, the charity gala came around. Ethan was there, not in a suit, but in a staff t-shirt, helping kids in wheelchairs, handing out programs, learning basketball moves from a little boy named Thomas who didn't care how expensive your tie was. Lorraine, in a simple blue dress, asked him how it felt. Humbling, he said, and necessary. She nodded, without malice. That's the real lesson. Worth isn't about appearances or money, but respect for everyone. Ethan meant it when he said he understood, and that the price missing out on a massive sale was worth every penny. That night, as the event wound down, Wesley put a hand on Ethan's shoulder, thanked him for changing, offered him the chance to earn back that big corporate deal, but only if he kept seeing people for who they really are. Ethan accepted, honestly grateful. He'd changed not just because he had to, but because he saw what mattered. Later, as Thomas told Ethan, you know what, for a grown-up, you're pretty cool, Ethan realized that was the best compliment he'd ever gotten. So let me ask you, if you were in Ethan's shoes, would you have done anything differently? Do you think people can really change, or are we all just pretending, waiting for someone richer or flashier to walk in? Where do you draw the line between protecting your business and protecting your humanity? Let me know what you think below. I want to hear your story because, trust me, someone out there needs to know they're not alone in feeling this way.